Greetings, everybody. I hope you're all doing well today. Today, we're going to be talking about another amendment, the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The reason I'm bringing this up is because this 10th Amendment, which is the empowerment of states and states' rights, in which we also fought a civil war over, we need to not reflect in the fact that slavery was the cause of the Civil War, when in fact it was the 10th Amendment, states' rights, and so on and so forth. And it's a revisionist of history of those that wish to say otherwise, and we need to keep those things alive and stuff like that. But I would say in the last 100 years, the U.S. Constitution has been eroded on purpose by certain entities within not only the U.S., but outside the U.S., just like those that would like to take away our Second Amendment rights or our free speech. We're the only country in the world that really has essential free speech. Even that hate speech is free speech, stuff like that. We're the only country that has a guaranteed right by God and divine and natural law to have a Second Amendment right that will not be infringed by government, and yet they do it all the time. So that's where we're going with this today. So the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which was added to the Bill of Rights in 1791, is a critical part of the country's founding documentation. It states that any powers not delegated to the federal government by the Constitution nor prohibited it to the states are reserved to the states or the people. Despite its significance, the 10th Amendment has been largely forgotten and ignored over the years, as the federal government has expanded its powers and encroachment on rights of states. Now, we always hear these things in the news about how the federal government is all powerful and all that. Well, the federal government didn't create the states. The states created the federal government. And the states are the natural balance of power to the federal government. And also, too, no matter left or right of the aisle and stuff, it doesn't matter. But more governors need to take more authority back from the federal government. Just like the federal government is the largest owner of all of land in the U.S. That's why they have BLM, Bureau of Land Management, not Black Lives Matter, and stuff like that. And they're controlled by the feds and stuff. Now, I don't have a problem with them controlling federal parks and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? But not federal lands. States should have more rights to be able to do what they think is right and stuff like that. I think more power should be pushed back to the states. I also think that a lot of departments within the U.S. should be eliminated, and that money should go to states that it maybe have larger geographical areas and stuff. Let's just say, for example, Texas or California, for example, or, wherever, you know what I'm saying? But the 10th Amendment was added to the Constitution as a way of protecting states' rights, ensuring that federal government would not become too powerful. What are we seeing today? Federal government is becoming way too powerful. The framers of the Constitution were deeply concerned about the dangers of centralized power. And what have we seen in the last 100 years? Or let's just say, for example, the last 20 and 25 years. Many of you probably listening have been around that long to see that happen and stuff like that. The framers of the Constitution were deeply concerned about the dangers of centralized power, like I stated. And they sought to balance the power of the federal government with those states, just as I explained earlier. And they sought to balance the power of the federal government with those states. The 10th Amendment was an important part of this effort, and it made clear the federal government's power was limited, and that any power not specifically delegated to it were to be reserved to the states. And since 9/11, we have seen an apparatus and laws and all that stuff like the NDAA and stuff like that that have eroded a lot of those rights, including alleged free speech too as well. Over time, however, the 10th Amendment has been largely forgotten, and that is a fact. That is why I'm doing this video. The federal government has steadily expanded its power and reach, often at the expense of the states. And see, this is where state legislatures come in, and this is where state governors come in too, and stuff. And that's where they need to do more to say, federal government, no, you're not going to do this. We're going to do this on the rights of our rights as a state because you're encroaching on it. That get, This has been particularly true in the 20th century, as the federal government has taken on a larger role in regulating commerce, protecting the environment, and ensuring social and economic equality. In many cases, the federal government has done so at the expense of states, infringing on their rights and eroding their powers. Remember that, right? One of the most significant reasons for the 10th Amendment decline is the rise of federalism, which has resulted in increasing central power in the federal government. And see, I disagree with this because they're implying that federalism is somehow empowering the federal government to become a centralized power. And so the problem with that is that we are a federalist system within a republic and stuff like that. And so what makes us more federalist is the fact that our states are an equal balance to the federal government as intended and all that. Federalism is the idea that powers of the federal government and the states are divided, with the federal government having certain powers and states having others. Over time, however, the federal government has taken on more and more powers, often at the expense of states. This has resulted in a federal government that is far more powerful than the framers of the Constitution intended, and has made it difficult for the states to maintain their autonomy and independence. Now, before this U.S. Constitution was in play, and it had all these amendments and stuff like that, there was a Confederate Constitution and stuff like that that was around before the founding of the U.S. And so there were a president and a vice president, but all these 10 amendments, 1 through 10, were not a part of the second Constitution. And it actually gave greater power to the actual Congress of the U.S. Well, not U.S. at the time, but the Confederacy of the U.S. at the time. And basically made a weak executive branch, which is the president and vice president. The reason why was because they were afraid of a king rising and stuff and all that. Even those at the founding wanted George Washington to basically be the first king, but he said, no, that's not what I want, But like I said, another fact, and then we're going to move on here and stuff like that about, after that little tangent there. Another factor that has contributed to the decline in the 10th Amendment is the growth of the administrative state. And this is very, very important, as we have seen with regards to the coup, and all that, and what happened and stuff, and then the situation with whether you agree or not, the deep state and how they have played a role in regards to the executive branch, the presidency, and stuff like that, and the control and so on and so forth. The bureaus, the departments that are responsible for enforcing federal laws and regulations. These agencies have taken on a central role in American governance. They have often encroached on the powers and rights of states, like waterways, land, migration patterns, stuff like that. And some people might say, well, that's a good thing. Is it? Asaf? Is it really? Are you only seeing that because you don't understand the federalist type republic system that we have? We're not a democracy. We're not mob rule and stuff like that. These agencies have taken on, like I said, a central role in American governance, and they have often eroded states' rights. The administrative state has made it difficult for the states to maintain their independence and autonomy, as they are often forced to comply with federal regulations and directives, or they're sued, which, again, is another violation of the Constitution. The federal government doesn't have a right to sue a state, and all that. Finally, the decline of the 10th Amendment can be attributed to the rise of the judiciary activism. Judiciary activism is like the courts, so the circuit courts, the Supreme Court, so on and so forth as well too, which there is some agreement there that I could see, you know, but that's a discussion for something else. It's very, there's a lot there. So judiciary activism is the idea that the court should be more active in interpreting the Constitution and shaping public policy. I don't agree with that. The purpose of the judiciary and the courts is to interpret the Constitution, not legislate from the bench. And that's what we see a lot of today. Over time, the courts have become increasingly involved in shaping public policy, legislating from the bench, in other words, often at the expense of states. And it's true. The courts have often ruled in favor of the federal government expanding its powers, infringing on rights of states. Now, I know you might not agree or not agree or not agree, but with Roe versus Wade being overturned, what you have to realize is that that ruling was federalism right there in play. It returned the decision to the states where it belonged. And so no matter if you agree with it or not, and stuff like that, you know, you also got to realize too that slavery at one time was upheld by the U.S. Constitution as an economic right of those that had slaves. And where is slavery today? It's gone. It was abolished, and stuff like that, and by the courts too, and by President Lincoln, and by the Civil War, you know, afterwards and stuff, and all that. And like I stated, it's still about the 10th Amendment and states' rights from the Civil War and all that. But in conclusion, the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution has been largely forgotten over the years. As the federal government has expanded its powers, encroached on the rights of states, this decline can be contributed to the number of factors, including the rise of federalism, the growth of the administrative state, and the rise of judiciary activism. Despite its decline, the 10th Amendment remains an important part of the Constitution, a crucial protection for states' rights and individual liberties. It is important that we discover its significance and work to restore its powers in the coming years to come. Now, I know that this is a very difficult issue and stuff like that, and I know that I'm only doing this in maybe 13 to 15 minutes and stuff like that, but it gives you some food for thought. And I am not claiming I'm an expert, but I have had a lot of education and background when it comes to Constitution, international law, and stuff like that. I've actually had professors who are friends with a few of the Supreme Court justices who are actual constitutional scholars. I have one professor who helped write the Constitution for Iraq. Well, not for them, but helped advise on writing their Constitution and all that. While doing so, he had a bounty on his head. But when there are certain things that need to be done and need to be interpreted and stuff like that, it's very important to know what all of these are and why. So that's why I'm doing this segment and stuff like that. And I hope you really appreciate it. I'm going to end it out here because we're coming up on 14 minutes. But take care, everybody. Let me know what your thoughts about this. Did you know anything about this? Is this something that you didn't know? Let me know. Bye.